how to become receptive to grace? That is the question that comes so often. Grace, beloved, is like the prana that you breathe. Prana, the air, the life force energy that you cannot see with your eyes. And yet you breathing it, this phenomenal intelligent energy that goes straight into your being and that keeps you alive, that keeps everything alive manifested into this realm of physicality. Maybe some of you are aware, but I have mentioned, I have seen prana a few times in a very powerful mystical experience, and it is the most beautiful thing. An ethereal light, and when you breathe it, the way, the dance and the geometry of it is beyond this world. So grace is like prana. You don't see it, and yet is there all the time, upon you, within you. The question is more, are you receptive and sensitive and open to receive grace? That's the first question. The second question you may ask yourself is, well, actually, it's not a question, it's more a demystification of what is grace, because grace, how does it manifest into your life? That's what Devi Ma means, is often most people think grace is, when you receive grace, you receive something that you pray for, you want it, and you ask for. Is that so? If it's what you think of grace, then we need to demystify that, because it's not what grace here. Grace will always serve your higher purpose. Either it could be a process of complete, total ego dissolution, smita, what we call in Sanskrit, ego dissolution, all those identity that doesn't serve you, your highest good, your unfoldment, your self-realization and your liberation. Or you could think of grace by wanting and asking and hoping you will receive it in form of grace. Does not necessarily mean it will be for you for the best. Maybe the timing is not right. Maybe it's not divine timing, or what you ask for might not serve you. So in that framing is that then it'll become the opposite of grace. It will become a process of karmic bondage. And what I have experienced in many lifetimes, and this lifetime, grace is flowing everywhere. Everyone is subjected to it. And in my own life, I look back, grace always serves your highest good. So what are the secret of receiving grace? Because there is a certain way to become receptive, and secret, you could say, or the right condition. You see, beloved, like grace is like a peach tree. I use this beautiful analogy because it really works. As it grows, you know that eventually from a sprouts to the peach, or it could be a mango tree. I love mango as well. Most people love mango, or any fruit tree for that matter. The ultimate result is the sweetness of it. Grace is like that. The ultimate result, the ultimate grace is the sweetness of your own being. And so, but in order for the fruit tree, for that sprout to grow into this magnificent fruit tree and bear a ripe fruit, you need the right condition. So the right condition is the right amount of rain, the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of soil, fertile soil that is rich with nutrient, the right amount of protection. As it grows, and as it grows, the condition will change, and the tree will need a different condition also, might need more water, more sun, and vice versa. So for you is the same, is the right amount of condition, the right condition. So meaning, depending where you are on the spiritual growth. So at some point you might need more faith, you might need more trust. And to hold someone or the divine at the highest level, above yourself, it has served my purpose in being completely in grace and to become an instrument of grace. So that is one of Devi Mai's secret, is hold someone that you love, Guru, God, whatever, the ultimate reality of the absolute, what we call God. Hold it and just bow down. So humbleness is an essential nutrient. And then a total surrender to the highest power, whatever you call it. You put a name on it because there's so many names. Ultimately to the divine within you, your own guru, the divine God, the divine mother. So you surrender. Again, is you allowing, because in total surrender, you allowed space for grace to take over, because personality doesn't get in the way. Your accumulation, your conditioning doesn't get in the way. The like and the dislike and the asking and imposing yourself. So you trust, you bow down and you trust. The will be done, whatever is in a total state of acceptance, that you trust grace is here, and an overflowing abundance of gratitude and feeling blessed. Really consciously and mindfully feeling, wow, all those blessings, just for breathing, to be alive, to be healthy, to be able to see with your beautiful eyes, and to have hands and to have feet to walk mindfully. All of this is great blessing. Now, reverence is another powerful nutrient. A deep, deep reverence for the supreme intelligence that manifests. We could call it the Divine Mother again, because we'll talk about that in upcoming video about the Divine Mother, the power of the divine feminine energy. You could bow down to that, because ultimately is the source. Bow down to the source. And so those are the right nutrients. Total surrender, total reverence, deep reverence, and profound humbleness, and get this personality out of the way, because personality and ego will never serve your highest good. So this is how you know that you are in grace, is when you see that very clearly. Because yoga, that's exactly what yoga is to enhance your perception, to see things with clarity, and then to see that you bathing in grace, that whatever is happening in your life, it's serving your higher purpose. It is a process for you of complete dissolution of ego identification. All those identification we talked about in Becoming the Light Inner Journey Mastery Program, part of it, and some other video, personality, of ethnicity background, religious background. That's a very strong one that create very strong separation. the illusion of separation, because we are not separated. We're all interconnected by a web of the divine. And as we breathe one breath. It's one heart, one breath, one soul, one spirit. This is how interconnected that we all are. So pay attention in your life. Ask yourself this question: am I open to grace? The mind will trick you. And am I receptive and sensitive to grace? What is the right concoction of condition right now, the right nutrient for me? Is that increasing more faith? Take a leap of faith, take a leap, a trust. I don't trust enough the divine. And now back off a little bit and become more aware. Practice being a witness of your thoughts and really looking deep into your life, into how grace is allowing and flowing. And if you see that you will have revelation and realization and maybe even some very powerful insight, then you will see, oh, Devi Ma is right. I think I'm not bowing down enough, surrendering, abandoning myself, and I need to do that more. This is a practice. Just that alone can be your sadhana, beloved. It is very hard for big ego and big mind. I don't mean the big mind in terms of the cosmic mind. I mean for someone who has a jabbering mind to really be able to bow down and to allow the divine to create this magic. So grace, when you allow grace, it's a great empowerment of your highest purpose, your highest good, and to serve your spiritual unfoldment, your self-realization, and your enlightenment, and ultimately your happiness. Because how can you not trust the divine? That the divine mother knows better than you do what is best for you. So just take the time to practice that, allowing to become receptive to grace can be a very, very powerful spiritual practice. As long as you become mindful of it and aware of it. So, you see, when you breathe, that's another example, for instance. See, you're not even conscious. Most of you are not conscious that you are a walking miracle. You're not realizing the miracle. And that brings you total freedom when you have that realization. The same as you breathe. When you have mastered the art of conscious breathing, suddenly you're aware, you're inhaling the divine, you're inhaling God, whatever you call it, and the divine mother, you're inhaling it. It's healing, it's transforming, it's empowering. So if you're not mindful and you're not aware, meaning coming back to your breath, what Devi Ma teach a lot, because it's a core essence of any, not just forget spirituality, just a core essence of, at the very core of our own true spirit, in the manifestation of the physical form, to be aware joyously that you're breathing in is caressing your spine, your Merudanda, you inhaling life force energy. That is the same with grace. You see my point? You inhaling grace. So if you're not mindful, aware, and alert, and use your magical wand with viveka, with discernment of looking at what are the nutrients I need to bring to render myself more in surrender, more receptive to grace. And be honest with yourself, because the truth is, You can't fool yourself, but really who has been hurt is you, beloved. It's only you. You see, because the way you are in the world and the way you are all the time within your own being, you can't fool other people, but you cannot fool yourself. So use discernment and look, what are the ingredients? How can I become more receptive to grace? And it's here, it's flowing all the time. If I look back at my life, my God, the grace is so phenomenal. I mean, I will tell you just a brief little story. When I look back, when I was on the spiritual path with so many great enlightened masters, I got very involved in helping the animal in India, and really like firsthand feeding stray dogs and cats, the cow, donkey, and got involved in at ashram organizing what we call ABC clinic for stray animals to sterilize them. And I would always wanted to bring the awareness and the mindfulness about the suffering of the animal, to raise the consciousness. It was such an intrinsic part of spirituality, because you can't say you fully awaken if you don't truly embrace everyone as yourself, and that includes all living beings. And so that always been a deep, profound cause for myself, because it doesn't matter. So spirit, when it comes and manifests into a form, if it's an animal or human being, it doesn't matter. So to make a very long story short, one thing led to the other. I got into trouble many times, and some of you know some of the story. You can read about it in Becoming the Light, Realize You to Enlightened Nature, in my major book. Some phenomenal story, but one thing led to the other. And because Devi Ma was so, there was no one there, no personality, no ego. It was done with complete, deep surrender and no identification, just for pure divine love for the animal and for the Divine Mother. And grace was flowing because things happened and it unfolded, and one thing, and we got a chance to help so many thousands of animals. And it even led to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I never even visualized or even thought or dreamed such a beautiful experience would happen, to have an audience with them in India. One thing led to the other. I had this idea to create the first day of compassion for all living beings. And one thing led to the other. I started volunteering, like my own initiative, Seva, volunteering. And I network and got to know who were the player in India, the non-profit organization who helped the animal. And one thing led to, I started working with the Humane Society International, and then the Humane Society of United States. And then I met the consultant, and we started working on it. She had the same idea, and we together, I was part of the proposal and the initiative for the first day of compassion, which took place, I think it was in November 12th in 2012 in Mumbai. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama was our one of our main guest speaker, and it was a small group of 200 people, and that's a small group for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And it was all about how can we raise consciousness, how can we help the animal on our planet. And that's a cause that is very dear to Devi Ma. And eventually we are working on having our own private foundation, Devi's Grace Private Foundation, which you'll hear about. It will be related to this cause, and also helping the youth to put them together to raise consciousness and help the animal. So to make a long story short, what a blessing and what a grace. You see, when you don't ask, you shall receive in a different way, a way that you don't expect, even more than what you thought. And then I was feeling so blessed and so happy to meet His Holiness. We had a small audience, we were about 10 of us. And when he walked in the room, I said, His Holiness, I was so happy. I just loved him so much. I had written to him so many times over the decade, asking him to speak on the behalf of the suffering animal. And I always receive a response. But this was a moment I was so happy because I was overflowing with divine love. And he came straight at Devi Ma, and the story is in my book. And it was so unexpected. I had brought him roses and I offered to him. And then when I did give him the roses, gave him to his attendant, and he took my hand and he put it on his heart. And then he looked at me straight in my eyes, and then he put his forehead on my forehead, and we bowed down. He, in a beautiful reverence, all the way down halfway. And our Swarasara was touching, and then we went back up. And then we looked at each other, and it was filled with so much divine love. And then again, he put his forehead on my forehead, and our Swarasara was touching, and we bowed down again, like in a beautiful reverence, and he came back up. And it was so beautiful. And throughout the event, I got a chance to ask him a question. And towards the event, I had bought him a little puppet. It was like a little knitted cow puppet, a finger puppet. And I went to him and talked to him, and most people were gone. He was alone with his attendant. And I went playing with the little puppet, and I had a little voice like, His Holiness, Dalai Lama, we're so happy, so grateful you're here, that you spoke in the behalf of the animal. And actually, he allowed Devi Ma to take a photo of him. I have that photo here. The whole story is in my book. And we laughed. It was such a beautiful moment. He was alone there with his attendant. And I see in the future having a beautiful event there in India and other great master on our planet to make a big difference, to raise consciousness for all living beings. So the reason I'm sharing this story is to show you the power of grace, how it can serve a higher purpose, not just about you. Even though if it serves you higher purpose for self-realization, it serves all living beings. Because that's the best gift that you can give to yourself, is to get out of the way. And you might be very surprised of the grace flowing into your life. Like this story, that's only one. I could write a whole book on grace and share so many stories of how grace manifests in your life when you truly bow down and you serve the divine, the supreme, ultimate truth, and serve all living beings. So the last thing on grace is the whole purpose of receiving grace is that you become an instrument of grace, that you exude, you emanate that beautiful grace to everywhere you are, radiate the light from within, and then you become a channel of grace for everyone around, and you touch everyone.